You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome to Max A. Pooch's Awesome Animal Advocates, where you will meet the doers, the leaders, the people who are making a difference for animals in your neighborhoods, in the United States, or somewhere else in the world. You will learn how these amazing people became involved in doing what they do, why they spend time, money, and long hours each day fighting to save the lives of and or improving the living conditions of companion or domestic or wild animals. I'm Keith Sanderson, creator and host of Max A. Pooch's Awesome Animal Advocates, and Max and I invite you to stay with us and meet today's guests. They are two business executives who have blended their love of flying with their love of animals. They are Brad Childs and Jonathan Plesset, who are pilots, long-term friends, and co-founders of Pittsburg Aviation Animal Rescue Team. Brad is the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of iTeak, and Jonathan is President, CEO of Shadyside Inn, All Suites Hotel. We'll meet Brad and Jonathan in a moment and learn more about them and Pittsburg Aviation Animal Rescue. But first, a word from our sponsors.
We'll be right back, right after these messages. Stay tuned.
It's DesignerPetSweaters.com. Hand-knitted designer sweaters for your precious pup or cool cat. Beautiful couture patterns for your pets, including custom-knitted formal wear, casual wear, yachting, and even sports-themed. Many designer pet sweaters include feathered tammy hats, top hats, and a lot of sparkle. Each sweater includes leg loops, front paw sleeves, and leash opening. Visit DesignerPetSweaters.com to order your four-legged fashions today. Large or small, we fit them all. DesignerPetSweaters.com.
Let's talk pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Max A. Pooch's Awesome Animal Advocates, and I'm your host, Keith Sanderson. Our guests today are Brad Childs and Jonathan Plesset, co-founders of Pittsburg Aviation Animal Rescue. Welcome, Brad and John. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Now, Brad, you and John were the co-founders. Brad, can you tell me a little bit about what the mission of Pittsburg Aviation Air Rescue Team is?
Sure. I mean, our mission is pretty simple. We use a fleet of small airplanes to fly into more rural areas, and we rescue primarily dogs, but any animal that's in a dangerous situation, and we fly them to a safe situation.
Now, again, Brad, would that be animals that are in danger of being euthanized at shelters, or animals that have been rescued by someone else, maybe that have been in puppy mills, or what do you define a dangerous situation?
Dangerous could be definitely shelters that are euthanizing dogs, primarily maybe because they're underfunded or don't have food to feed them. So not only do we go in and rescue them, but we'll fly in a supply of food or truck in a supply of food as well. We go into dogfighting rings, abusive situations, puppy mill situations, natural disasters. Really, any time we're called upon and it's a qualified rescue, we will accept that mission.
Wow, that's interesting. Blending your love of animals and your love of flying into something that does so much good. John, how did you become involved in first rescuing dogs? And what's your background?
Well, my background is I'm a real estate developer, and I met a young man when we were both young named Brad Childs. He approached me when we were living in the same building, and we became friends. And every Sunday we made a point of trying to go do something fun and adventurous. And after going through everything we could possibly find to do, we landed on flying. We kind of goaded each other into taking lessons and learning how to fly. We were both frightened, but we got in the plane and we started doing it and fell in love with it. And a couple years later, we had a partner in the airplane who was flying some angel flights, doing things like that, and had a mission to fly a dog. And called Brad and said, Brad, you want to fly a dog? And Brad famously said, "What? You want to put a dog in our airplane?" And from there, he said, "Okay, why not?" Took the mission and he called me up and said, John, I just did the greatest thing I've ever done. What is it, Brad? We just rescued a dog with the airplane. And immediately, we got hooked into it. I mean, it was combining two love affairs. We both love animals, love flying. It's the perfect situation for us.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. Now, are there just you two involved in flying for PAART, or more pilots? Brad, how many pilots are involved?
We have a core team of about 6 to 10 pilots at any given time, and then we also have an army of volunteers that do our ground support, our flight coordination, our bookkeeping, our public relations, and John and I always get to look good, and for us that's difficult because neither one of us particularly look that good. John less good than I, of course, but the reality is we can't do it without everybody's help. We really rely and we put a lot of weight and a lot of pressure on our team, and they come through absolutely every single time.
We get the glory, but we have so many people behind us that are doing a lot of the work.
I can imagine the logistics can be quite challenging sometimes. Am I right about that?
You are correct about that. I mean, the logistics is truly the hard part. I mean, you're talking about weight and balance of an airplane, how much fuel is on board, how much weight do the pilots carry, and interestingly enough, on that note, we had a pilot recently lose about 50 pounds, and he was heavily motivated as a rescue pilot to do so because that 50 pounds could save an extra, 2 dogs at 25 pounds each on every flight that he takes. And he is our workhorse pilot and flies probably the most number of missions of any of us. And we were very inspired by that. We never asked him, obviously, to do that, and it cost us another flight suit. We had to take him down about 3 sizes on a flight suit, but we're happy to spend the money, and we admire his hard work and dedication to working out and eating healthy to save more dogs.
And Brad, now, that's using their own planes, or are they chartering planes, or both, or none of the above, or all the above?
Nope, we use our own planes. We cover our own costs, and, we beg, borrow, and steal to make it happen and do whatever we have to do to go get the dogs.
And Jonathan, about how many dogs or animals have you guys rescued?
To date, we've rescued about 785 dogs.
Wow. 785. And how many dogs typically are rescued in a flight? I know you have different sized planes, but, let me rephrase that. And what's the most dogs that can be rescued in one mission with PAART?
The most we ever did was 30 at once, and we actually had to commandeer a much larger aircraft to do that. And there were a lot of puppies involved in that rescue. But, for the most part, when we go fly, this is a math problem. How much money can we spend on fuel versus how many dogs can we get for those dollars? So when we fly somewhere, we're looking to load the plane to the max. So the max might change based on the weight we're carrying. So, for instance, the last mission we flew in January, we rescued 7 dogs. We were able to fit, 7 medium-sized dogs in one of our planes. And for us, that's a successful mission. If we can get one plane doing 7, that's great. Now we have the capability at any given day of the week of sending up 4 or 5 planes and possibly rescuing 25 to 30 dogs.
Now, are they crated? You don't let them run loose in the planes, do you?
We don't. The crates are important both for the dog safety and for our own safety. And we take safety very seriously, considering, the risk we're taking, just flying these missions.
And typically, what's the radius of operation, Brad? How far do you operate out of your main airport?
Our primary focus is Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia. However, we have done missions as far south as Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and we are willing to do missions based on the particular circumstances, upwards of Atlanta, Tennessee, Kentucky, Boston. We can stretch out pretty far, but again, to John's point earlier, we always try and stay financially prudent to our donors. And not that one dog isn't important, but we wouldn't want to spend the money to go to Fort Lauderdale to rescue one dog. It would just be insanely cost prohibitive And if it was an urgent situation, we would just rather put them on a commercial plane and send them up there.
That makes a lot of sense because I can see not only the cost, but then a pilot who might be able to be doing another mission and maybe rescuing 6 or 7 dogs would be out of the loop also. We need to take a break right now to hear from our sponsors, but we'll be right back.
We'll be right back right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Amazing Pet Expos is coming to a city near you. Admission is always free, and your pet is welcome. Shopping, adoptions, free nail trims, discounted shots and microchipping, agility, a pet costume contest, and much more. Plus, meet the guys from Animal Planet's hit TV series Tank and Pit Boss. Online at AmazingPetExpos.com.
Bring your pets to the Pet Expo.
Hi, I'm Dana Humphrey, also known as the Pet Lady. I travel from coast to coast to pet trade shows and consumer events to scout out what the hottest, hippest, and most unique pet products are on the planet, bringing you tips and tricks from top veterinarians, groomers, trainers on how to safely travel and live happily with your pets. The Pet Lady will be in a city near you, showing off the latest and greatest tech pet gadgets, cozy comforts, and fab gift ideas for man's and woman's best friend. You can learn more at thepetlady.net or connect socially and tweet with me at PetLadyWorld.
Hi, I'm Dr. Robin Gansert, President and CEO of American Humane Association, the country's first national humane organization. Here to tell you about our new show, Be Humane, on Pet Life Radio. Each week we'll be bringing you the latest news and issues affecting our animal friends, and we'll also be bringing you interviews with Hollywood's biggest animal advocates, here to share tales about their pets and what they're doing to promote a more humane world. Our own highly experienced staff and friends of the organization will also join us each week to share what they're up to in the animal world. I hope you'll stop by. Until then, let's always remember to be humane.
Every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Maxie Pooch's Awesome Animal Advocates. I'm your host, Keith Sanderson, and our guests today are Brad Childs and Jonathan Plesset of Pittsburg Aviation Animal Rescue. And they were talking about some of the missions they've carried and how they can determine if they can fly a dog rescue mission. And one of the questions I think is important is, are you guys a 501c3 charity, Brad?
We absolutely are a 501c3 nonprofit.
That's important, of course, if one wants to donate, because I believe there's possible of tax deduction for donations then to you guys?
Correct.
And the tax donation or deduction, of course, is a side benefit. I think the main thing, most of us who donate to organizations such as yours, is because we want to help animals. Are there any other ways that somebody could help animals through your group besides donations, Brad?
There's always ways that people can help. I mean, first of all, getting the word out about our group is a big help, as it just expands the different rescue groups that we can fly for. Maybe they know a pilot that wants to get involved with our group, and we have a pretty open door policy to volunteers and pilots and different groups. But we always welcome help. If somebody feels that they have an asset that we need and could benefit from, then John and I always will entertain that.
Now, is there any kind of skill you're looking for now? I should imagine.
Of course, we get a lot of inquiries from pilots wanting to donate their plane and their time. But we also get a lot of people who are looking to help us in other ways, like you mentioned. I mean, and one of them is we've kind of dabbled in doing some ground rescue work. I mean, that's kind of an easier way for people to get into this who don't want to donate money, but are willing to donate their time. Is there are portions of some of these trips that require a ground transportation team. And, as we progress into 2015, it seems our missions are going to be getting longer and bigger, and we're going to need that component moving forward.
Can you give me an example of a mission you did that integrated ground and air transportation, John?
Yeah, we're in the Northeast, and for flying season, there's about a 3 or 4 month period of time between November and really the end of, middle of March, I want to say, that flying becomes too dangerous due to icing. We'll do a mission here and there, but for the most part, that's our downtime. And Brad and I, struggled this year saying we don't want to quit. Just because the weather isn't great doesn't mean that dogs aren't going to still be euthanized or don't need us. So, we put together, a van transport and sent a truck down to a place that we were doing air rescue to and picked up 25 dogs and brought them to a shelter, and we realized, wow, that might be another area we can kind of dabble in. And Brad and I have been looking into, for perhaps purchasing a mobile dog rescue van that we could use for those kinds of situations, and we could also use for a volunteer who wants to participate in a leg of one of these journeys. They could come, have use of our van to help facilitate these transports.
Well, that'd be great because then, as you said, the need to rescue dogs doesn't end because of the flying season has ended. So to be able to integrate your operations so you can be both air and land would be fantastic. Now, Brad, how does a representative for an animal shelter or someone else who has dogs to rescue, how do they make a request?
Sure. John actually built a great website for us, and on the website we have a request for transport form that can be filled out, and it asks all the pertinent information. From there, we have an investigative reporter in the city of Pittsburgh who will actually investigate the particular rescue to make sure that they are a reputable rescue, 501c3, in good standing, good reviews. We make sure that we're flying dogs not only from bad places, but we want to make sure that we're flying them into, obviously, a much better situation. And we do our best to do our due diligence to figure out who everybody is, and also make sure that somebody is not trying to, source a private airplane to move a couple of dogs.
Well, that's great because I think so many times people just assume that because maybe you're dealing with some animal shelter, some request for help, that it may be legitimate, and sometimes that's not always true. So doing due diligence is certainly a good thing to do. Now, Brad and John, Brad first, I ask each of my guests this question. With all the human misery in the world, how can you justify spending time, money, energy, and resources advocating for animals and rescuing them?
So if Brad is first, Brad is actually going to defer to John. This is one of his favorite questions, and I'm going to listen to what he has to say.
Okay.
Okay, well, it's funny you brought this up because we do hear this question a lot, and we hear it a lot in a negative connotation. And obviously, that kind of fuels the fire within us to react strongly to people saying that. There isn't any other item in the world that can bring the kind of happiness and joy that a pet can bring to a human being. Countless studies have shown, pets enrich our lives and make us healthier. It would be, a very bad idea for, people to turn their backs on animals because it's an investment that pays off more than, most other charitable investments pay off. We do these missions and we might save one dog, and that one dog might go to a family that has an autistic child. And this dog might open up this kid's life. This is not just, hey, it's just a dumb animal. These animals are, vital to, human beings. For generations and thousands of years, animals have been a part of our life. And for us to turn our back, it's just a poor use of, such a great resource. You can go get a dog for free. You can go adopt a dog for free, and it'll bring joy and happiness to your life like nothing else will. So we're passionate about that. And when we see, dogs being abused and we see dogs being put in bad situations by humans, it upsets us. We have an obligation to protect these animals. We're all, quote unquote, God's creatures. And just because it's a dog doesn't mean a dog doesn't need help and financial support as well. So, that in essence is really where we're coming from with all of this. We want to be in a position to help, the voiceless animals out there, because they enrich our lives.
That's a great answer. Do you have anything to add to that? That'd be tough to add to.
It is tough to add to, but I will add just a touch and really to capitalize on John's point. A lot of our missions and even single dog flights that don't seem worthwhile, the last flight that we took in the Piper Warrior before we sold it was flown by Jonathan Plesset and Bob Calabrese. And unbeknownst to our team, we flew one little puppy about 12 weeks old. John can refresh us where it went to, but it was somewhere in the middle of Pennsylvania or the eastern side of Pennsylvania. The weather wasn't very favorable to that flight. And as the story goes, that puppy went to not just a family that helps autistic children, but a family that has a camp for other families that have autistic children. And they have 3 service dogs, and this dog was going out there to become the next service dog that will fundamentally help, what could be hundreds of children at this one camp. And for us, I mean, that, you're talking about 2 business guys in Pennsylvania that, thank God, run pretty nice businesses. And stories like that can bring both of us to tears instantaneously.
Well, that's a great story. I had a guest from Smoky Mountain Service Dogs, and they train dogs to be companions to disabled veterans. And they just placed a rescue dog after 2 years of training with a veteran, and the dog's made a big change to his life. And I was thinking about that story as you guys were talking, because that's exactly it. If that dog had been put down, there may not have been another dog with the capability to do what that dog is doing for the veterans. Now, it was Jonathan, I think, that did the website. What is that website address, Jonathan?
It's www.pittsrescue.org.
Okay, and you want to repeat that? So if
Sure.
anyone in our audience wants to learn more or be a volunteer or make a donation, they can get to you guys?
Yeah, it's www.pitts, that's P-I-T-T, rescue.org.
Okay. And it's amazing how quickly time goes, Brad and John, and we've run out of time. I want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Keith.
And again, as is true of our guests, you guys are proof that animal advocates come in all shapes, sizes, and diverse backgrounds, from business executives to just people on the street or retired people or who have found time to do more for animals. And Max I. Pooch also thanks you and gives you 5 big tail-wagging wolves for sharing with us the work you're doing to help his less fortunate animal friends. And I want to thank Mark Winter, executive producer and co-founder of Pet Life Radio, and the sponsors who make this program possible. And please join us each and every episode of Max A. Pooch's Awesome Animal Advocates, and be sure to tell your friends about us. Remember, until we meet again, when you do a good thing for animals, you help the world be a better place.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.